Into It, Soul Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. Now, I usually stay towards the politics and world events and things like that. But in this episode of JRE, I could not resist a director with Quentin Tarantino talking about Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. If you guys don't know, Stanley's my favorite director. Eyes Wide Shut is just such a rabbit hole to go down. And this guy has a very good theory of what this movie is not only missing because it was taken out and remade and things like that, but he actually talks about like what this movie's really about. And I just find it so interesting. So I'm going to play that clip for you. We're going to start with Joe Rogan. We're going to end with Joe Rogan telling his Eyes Wide Shut party experience with Dave Chappelle. And in between, I'm just going to kind of go through what I think it's about, and then we're going to play some Katt Williams because he's kind of talking about this same thing, and that's going to be the video. Let's go.
So Kubrick had his forefathers who he used to watch and that he used to look to, and so those would be like my grandparents in a way. And so there's this like lineage of cinematic grammar and vernacular that gets carried on from filmmaker to filmmaker, and eventually, after you've made enough films, you start walking on your own. You start coming up with new ideas. But for me, it was Stanley Kubrick, John Borman. He's the guy who directed Excalibur and Hope and Glory and Point Blank and Hell in the Pacific. I mean, a number of movies. I don't think I'm such a big fan of John Borman, some of his films. I think you're a fan of his writing more than you are his films.
No, I have nothing but respect for John.
Yeah, and John Borman and then Roman Polanski. I think those three guys for me and their work, not the guys, but mostly their work, like, I am a composite. If you watch my movies, I'm a composite of those guys and other people as well. And those were the filmmakers who were important to me. Those were my parents, so to speak.
Kubrick was such an odd one. Like, his films were so different. And he was a weird guy, too. He did, like, complex mathematics in his spare time.
I do complex mathematics in my spare time. Nothing wrong with that. No, yeah, he's a weird guy, but he was also, I think, thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody at any kind of given moment. I mean, to be honest, I was just thinking, I just pulled my script from Eyes Wide Shut. I had a script that was from set, and I was reading it over the weekend, and I saw that it has this, I mean, I've known this for a long time, but I started really thinking about it over the weekend. It's missing a narration. It's missing a third-person narration that was originally in the movie. And that's because the movie was recut and changed after his death. And they will deny it. But as a student of Kubrick, I'm watching the movie and I'm like, well, Kubrick wouldn't do that. Kubrick wouldn't do that either. And Kubrick would have trimmed this scene.
I didn't know they recut it after his death.
Okay, so apparently
I think they finished it.
Well, that's the party line.
That's their version,
That's the party line. But I think that they changed the notes, the close-ups, the inserts of the notes. I think those are changed. It's missing a narration. It's definitely missing a narration. A third-person narration, like that scene where he sees the prostitute who's died. He's at the morgue and he's looking at her and he's like leaning over her. It's a bed for narration. There's this whole thing. What they do instead, because they couldn't say that Kubrick finished the movie because they hadn't done the recording of the narrator yet. And so maybe they just kind of kludged it together, except there's an entire thread that's kind of been squashed in that film. And that's the 2 men that are throughout the movie that are constantly in the background of the film, who eventually in the final shots of the film, you see like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in that final scene in the toy store when she's looking at the Rosemary's Baby bassinet, which is totally Kubrick saying something. And they never take their eyes off their daughter until the moment they take their eyes off and the final line of the movie is coming up. You see those 2 guys walking off with the daughter. They're taking her away. They've given their daughter to the cult. That's what's happened at the end of the movie. And there's an incident where when they first screened the movie in England, people who were outside, this is all secondhand, by the way. There were people who were outside of the theater who could hear inside of the theater Kubrick yelling at all the executives and saying, "It's my movie, you can't cut it. You can't cut my film, blah, 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 blah." Big argument going on. Then he dies like 4 days later.
Oh, Jesus.
So somebody went in and finished the movie. But I think when they finished the movie, they hid the film. The movie got changed into something else. And I would love to finish that film. I'm like,
Have you ever made an attempt?
I've thought about it, and reading the script over the weekend, I started seriously thinking about it. Well, somebody should recut this, or somebody should.
So it would just be a matter of recutting it with narration?
Well, yes and no. There's obviously missing. There would be missing footage now. Things have been removed
and is that
taken
accessible?
Down. No, not unless you crack it open and there's no way anybody.
Here's the thing.
They would never.
But hold on. Here's the thing. Now we have AI.
Well, I know that's you're one step ahead of me. I'm one step ahead.
Because
I've actually been experimenting a lot with AI.
The newer versions are pretty stunning.
I've been working on Runway lately, which is
the curve is insane. Like the exponential curve of improvement.
I'm literally, as I'm working on things, I'll be talking to the guys, and I'll be saying, "Well, it'd be nice to be able to move the camera." Okay, we got that tool on Tuesday. We're going to give that to you. And so it's like literally whatever you think you can't do. Ask us, because we probably will be able to do it in a couple of days. And so it's advancing so fast and so rapidly that I, without telling you, Quentin, I made a little claymation version of you. And I have him talking, and it's kind of funny looking.
I'm sure a claim version of me would be funny.
But isn't
it's a claymation version of both you and me.
How bizarre that something that would have cost like hundreds of millions of dollars, like if you wanted to do a film, like a pixel type, one of those crazy movies where you have all this like insane animation, that took forever.
The best work that I've seen of it lately, it was the first time I've been kind of ignoring AI and like, I know what it is. It's like form completion with visuals, and I get.
So they pretty much just shelved that whole thing. I would have went way deeper into that, because this seems like a guy. If you guys don't know, this guy, Quentin Tarantino, used to work in a movie store. You guys remember movie stores, Hollywood Video, Blockbuster, the small mom and pop places? Well, they worked at a place that was very small. I believe it was called Video Archive. I could be wrong about that. But they used to work in a video store together. And all they would do is talk movies, write movies, be working on small little films, horror films, this, that. So these guys are really into movies. This guy loves Stanley Kubrick. Sounds like way more than I do. Maybe it's the same amount. I don't know. But he's like really into it. I would have delved way deeper into somebody's mind like that and been like, okay, so what do you think's missing? Like, what do you think the narration should be? What would the narration be? Now, I have my theory on what the narration would be. I have an idea of what would be going on, because if you remember the movie, if you've even seen it, and if you haven't seen it, oh my gosh, go see it. Just drop everything you're doing right now. Go see it. I would think that the narration would be very panicked, but it would also be a guy who's being, what's the word? What's the word when you're being led into something? Not indoctrinated. He's being, it's like, he's being hazed. He's being let into this club because he forced his way in. And he shouldn't have forced his way in. But now that he's seen things, it's like you're either in or you're out, right? And that's the layer of this movie that he's referring to. But then when he brings up the actual cult that they gave the daughter into, that's where I'm like, oh, okay. Because it's weird when you're watching that. And I never thought that. But now with everything we know, that what he just said makes perfect sense, because you see it throughout the movie. There's the guy with his young, I think she's teenage, maybe less than teenage, and he finds her doing some wild stuff. And then the next thing you know, in a few scenes later, it seems like he's kind of condoning it because it's going to be for money. And now it's like he's in the club, because if you think about it in the aspect of a club and people are in the club, think about Tom Cruise seeing all that stuff when the guy didn't know his daughter was doing that stuff and how mad he was. And then all of a sudden he's okay with it. And the way that he looks at Tom Cruise at that point, you're like, oh, so like now he's in the club. Like the guy was mad that his, young, child was doing that, doing whatever. And now all of a sudden he's not. He's more calm about it. It's like, oh. And then they're the kind of the same near the end of the movie, where they're just looking and they don't take, like exactly what he said, they don't take their eyes off. And then they kind of look and they're just kind of having small talk as she's walked away. Does she come back? We just never know. We don't know how that works. There's also an aspect of that where there was a woman in the club that gave her life for Tom Cruise, right? She said, I will be the sacrifice. she passes away, all of a sudden it seems like it's like an eye for an eye. Like you had us eliminate one of ours, now we need one of yours, kind of thing. And then there's the whole thing of like, you know, the wife and the dreams that she's having, and they're not really dreams, that they're actually repressed memories. And there's so much to this movie. But, you know, all in all, again, what a lot of people think that it is, and I'll just read this post here. Let me just move this. Let me make sure to move this because you can't show any parts of the movie here. But a lot of people think it's stuff like this. Eyes Wide Shut explores deep psychological themes such as repressed desires, fidelity, and the nature of reality versus illusion, making it a rich subject for academic and blah, blah, blah. But that's not what it's about. If you really look at it and you really take in what this guy just said, who's in Hollywood, friends with Quentin Tarantino, making movies, it's more about stuff like this. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to go deep into it. But I'm saying it's more about stuff like that, right? It's more about this club of people. It's more about this than it's about anything. That's what I'm like. Now that he said that and I'm thinking about the movie again, that's what this is really about. And I feel like this photo should be photoshopped, but I think it's not because there's no community notes on it. I don't know. I'm going to be reposting all this on X, you know, but I think that's what it's more about. De Niro, Jay-Z, you know? Anyway, let's get into Katt Williams. Let him say it.
Seem like a petty individual for picking apart lies, but Jussie Smollett gonna keep lying until you say we don't believe you. Like it's important in the checks and balances of the universe that liars not get to make complete narratives for themselves.
Are you not afraid about being blackballed again? These are some power people.
What do you mean again? These people are not powerful. Satan can't create anything. That includes blessings for his people. That's why, you know what the number one job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is?
What?
Is to act like it didn't happen. They all do the same job. Why do you think Gary Owen can't cross over and he already white and been in comedy for 25 years? If what I say ain't the case. It's a cabal. It's a consortium. They rock with who they rock with and they don't with who they don't. But I'm not scared of being the competition any more than you were when you lined up across from a superior team. Yeah, on paper, they're a better team.
Right.
They have all the assets and resources and we don't. But let us get on the line, boy, and see if that factors in. I guarantee you it won't.
Wow.
Because Shannon Sharp got to be a different person than that other person.
Absolutely.
And he always was. That doesn't change when I change teams. That remains the same. That's how a legacy is built. So all of these shortcut takers, they canceled me for talking about Harvey Weinstein before the thing came out, but he offered to in front of all my people at my agency. What am I supposed to do? He did all of that. I'm thinking I'm the only black person on the script. I get there, there's 3 other black guys on there. Woo! Huh.
So you wonder what they did to get there.
I told him no. What y'all do? And this is why when I walk in a room, heads go down. Behind my back, I'm nothing. I'm just a regular old comedian that's bitter and jealous. But in my face, no. The king has walked in and they have to respect it only because I've not taken the shortcuts. I've not been funded. They pay you to not talk about things they don't want you to talk about. They tell you that themselves. I can't do that because Steve told.
Man, so Katt was really on point. And I bring this clip up because, Katt's kind of talking about what the movie's about when you really think about it. Rewatch the movie again. I'm going to rewatch it for sure. But Katt's talking about what the movie's about. And this gentleman on Joe Rogan was saying that Stanley was 3 steps ahead. So of course he's talking about it all the way back then when people weren't really talking about this type of thing all that much. Maybe didn't even know what was going on. Now it's 2024 and it's becoming exactly what Katt says in the next clip that I'm going to play, that everything's being revealed. it just makes you think about the movie so differently. And I really want to get in, I want to get in touch with this director, because I don't think this stuff that I'm talking about is like the tinfoil Speedo stuff. This is not what Hollywood people get into. You know what I mean? And I think he's missing this layer that he doesn't realize. And maybe not, because he did bring up the cult. He brought it up. So he obviously knows something, right? And he says that there is one. He says so very interesting stuff. Let me show another clip from Katt Williams here.
What you get? I came in this business saying I was going to expose. When I talked about Michael Jackson, when I talked about R. Kelly, they canceled me for these things, because why would you talk about another black dude? Race is not where the line is drawn. It's God's side and the other side. And we don't care nothing about the other side. Period. All of these big deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way. The truth is the light.
And after that, I don't really kind of know where to go. Let me one more time.
Right.
We good now?
Because the people want to know, why would he get blackballed?
Yeah,
I was gonna ask you that. Because in 30 years, I've done nothing but collect information, knowledge, and your secrets. So if you and a man was in a corner doing something you wasn't supposed to be doing,
you will tell it.
No, somebody come to tell me.
Okay.
I gather that. I value that. I'll pay for that. Come, tell me. I know so many things I shouldn't know, and they all know it. They all know it.
Man, it's almost like, when you think about it, it's like Katt Williams is the guy who snuck into the party and Eyes Wide Shut. He looked at the piece of paper. He's like, Fidelio? Okay. Let me in here. Oh, geez. What's going on in here? It's kind of, it's very, very interesting, man. Very interesting. So now it's like, that's this, what we are talking about. This is what the movie is actually about. It's about a guy who bursts in on something he should not be seeing. One of the people sacrificed themselves. He's now being brought into the club, whether he likes it or not. And with these people and this type of thing in the movie, there's sacrifices that have to be made, which one was made for him, and sacrifices that have to be given. That's what it seems like to me. It's very, very interesting. Now we're going to move on to the very last clip where Joe Rogan talks about his experience at an Eyes Wide Shut party with Dave Chappelle. I'm sure some of you have heard this before, but we should play it again. Let's go.
He's your boy.
Zoe's there. Yeah, he took me some Eyes Wide Shut party in the middle of the Hollywood Hills. You had to get in an elevator and go to the top of this hill.
What?
Yeah, it was Naomi Campbell had this birthday party. And so Dave's like, "Hey, Joe, you want to go with me to this party?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't like going to those parties. I like avoiding celebrity things." He's like, "Oh, come on, man. I got to be back here by midnight anyway." And I go, "All right." So we're smoking crazy amounts of high as and we get in my Porsche, go up to the top of this hill, get even more baked, get in a shuttle. It takes you up to this dude's house, and some dude who has the sickest house at the top of the Hollywood Hill. It's just some crazy billionaire character who has a sick house, and then above his sick house, he has a sick party house.
Type move.
He has just a party house. So you go to the top of this house, and he has this insane view of the city where it looks like Blade Runner, and he's got
so
just 180 degrees of windows. His party house is like a flying saucer that just got stuck in the side of a building, but the whole outside edge of the flying saucer is all windows.
Good Lord.
So you're sitting there's all seats around the windows, and then he has this big bar, and he has this, the guy's just loaded.
Scrooge McDuck.
And we have to take an elevator, like a 4-person elevator, an open-air elevator that goes up the side of the hill. And as we're going up the side of the hill, Naomi Campbell's naked photo is 40, 50 feet tall. Jesus. And I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. Jesus. It's this enormous naked photo of Naomi Campbell. And then we get up to the top and it's like Demi Moore's there. And I'm saying hi to Lenny Kravitz. I'm like, this is so strange.
It's so high.
Plus barbecued.
So high.
Barbecued. So high I shouldn't be out in public. And up there with all these like super rich people, and I'm like, what's up, Lenny? Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? We're talking to Lenny Kravitz. Like, how bizarre is this?
Yeah.
Just
cool,
seems
dude.
Yeah, it seems real nice.
Yeah.
But it was all these, I was talking to all these musician dudes about MMA. It was like, I got cornered by all these musician dudes, started throwing
like fighting with
Oh
someone.
my God, man. Dude, people get so excited.
Yeah.
They get so excited. They want to start talking MMA.
You got a guy who knows.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm like, anything to relax my anxiety right now. Like, I'll tell you all this
I'll break down whatever the you want. Give me two fighters. Go. Who you want to know who's gonna win?
How do people
you
make
want to
that
know
much
2017 schedule?
Here was what the weirdest part about it. Like, there was one point in the night, Naomi Campbell was for a book that she has. She has a book coming out.
Oh, okay.
And she's very nice too, by the way. Super nice and beautiful. And I
Still
don't know,
a dime piece.
100%. I don't know how old she is.
She's got to be 40, right?
I
older
would
than that.
imagine
I'd say older
she's
than that, right?
probably
Maybe.
closer to 50.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because
She's on the backside of
Cindy
40.
Crawford is 50 now.
I think she's
49.
I think she's a little older than that. I think she's
Cindy Crawford?
in
No,
her
she's
50s.
45.
Naomi Campbell's 45.
Wow.
How old is Cindy Crawford?
She's 50.
I think she just turned 50.
Ridiculously looking. Ridiculously looking.
She is ridiculous.
So Naomi Campbell, 45,
Yeah.
still slamming hot, right? So anyway, she stops in the middle of this thing. They have these photos of her book is out, and it's this exclusive book that costs like $1,500 or something.
Yeah, dude,
It's
don't
all,
charge that much.
Really big, high, glossy, the whole deal.
Yeah, don't do
And
that.
she just stops, and they start taking photos of her, and she just starts posing. So no one talks. No one's talking. Like, everyone's
They're just
quiet
watching
because
her
it's
do
a
this.
Naomi Campbell party. So it's almost like Michael Bolton gets out at his party and starts, "When a man
Ooh, I'd love that.
loves a woman."
I'd take my cell phone. Go, boy.
But it's like that. Like,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
doing her thing.
Her craft.
She's posing.
Her craft.
That's
and
how a
they're all
supermodel
like,
does it.
Amazing.
Oh, get it,
You
girl.
know, and there's just, it was a kind of a fascinating little party. It was a good thing to dip my toe into and get the out of there as quickly as
And
possible.
realize why you don't go to those.
Yeah, well, they're too famous. They're too famous, and it's what it is to me, it's like, ooh, don't get that famous.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he just helped the president win the election. So I guess that's out the window now. Don't get that famous. Hey, most famous person in the world. Friends with the most famous person in the world at the time, which was Dave Chappelle, who took him to the party. And it sounded, by the sound of it, it sounded like Dave didn't want to go to that party alone, which, why would you want to? You know what I mean? Why would you ever want to go? You can't, you know what I mean? You definitely can't have any drinks. Can't trust the drinks. I'm just saying, I wouldn't. I don't trust drinks anywhere I go. I'm one of those weirdos. I walk around with like this big bottles and stuff, big bottles of water and stuff. Who was the dude who owned that house? Billionaire character. Who was that person? I have no idea. I'm just saying. It's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Just hearing that story. And then all of a sudden he got cornered. You know, if he had one sip of anyone's drink, he would have woke up dipped in baby oil. Oh, they would have been dipped in one sip of a drink. Oh, I'm dipped in baby oil. It's Thursday. What? That's what would have happened. 100%. 100%. I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever. Okay. You're not going to tell me about, you can't live through 2024 and 2023 and think that if this guy had a sip of a drink at a Naomi Campbell party, okay, that was up in the hills with a 50-foot picture and all these celebrities, he wouldn't have woke up dipped in baby oil. Would have woke up dipped. He would have woke up dipped in baby oil. And today, Joe Rogan would be like, I just think that Kamala Harris I just think she's the best candidate. I don't know. I think she's good. I think she's smart. We need her to win. That's all. It's democracy. It's democracy's on the ballot. Joe would have been one of those guys. Democracy's on the ballot right now. Okay, just please, all you guys. I don't ask for much. That's what it would have been. 100%. 100%. He'd be a billionaire though. That's for sure. That Spotify deal would have came in $700 million for sure. Anyways, guys, it's tinfoil Speedo time. I bring up Stanley Kubrick. I didn't even tell you to bring your tinfoil Speedo. It's implied in the title when you see Stanley Kubrick. That's it. But again, very interesting stuff. I would love to hear what that guy would have in mind for the reshoot or the redoing of that movie. Not redoing, because he knows not to mess with, any of Stanley Kubrick stuff, but, redoing what he thinks is missing from there. Using AI to do that is also very interesting, and it's crazy that he's been experimenting with that. That's something that could be done, but I mean, you'll never know what was missing from the movie because apparently, he talks about it. He was saying that they wanted to make changes. 4 days later, he dies. Apparently, there was a from what I saw in one of the documentaries, I've watched so many documentaries on this. I think it was an 18-minute chunk of the movie was taken out and destroyed, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it still exists. But an 18-minute chunk was removed. And you can't tell where that chunk would have been. I think it would have been at the party. I think he would have saw some real crazy stuff. And yeah, so you'll never really know. But what was that chunk? And the reason when he says that there were people, Stanley Kubrick was yelling about, you can't change my movie, you can't change my movie. It's because Stanley Kubrick actually had a clause. It was an agreement in his film contract, that no one was allowed to change any part of his movie, which is why the studios would say, we just finished the movie because he passed away. They wouldn't say that they changed it. They'd be in violation of that contract, and maybe whoever has access to Stanley's estate would be able to act on it. I don't know. That's all just all very interesting, man. I love talking about Stanley Kubrick. But what do you guys think? Do you think this guy's onto something with what he said the movie's about? Do you think Joe Rogan was also he said it was an Eyes Wide Shut party. Obviously, you know what he means. It's like all big celebrities and it's weird and they're all there and it's very interesting. There's a model, taking pictures and blah, blah, blah. He wasn't talking about, But yeah, anyways, guys. Go dry off your tinfoil Speedo after this one. Like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.